Okay, people, here we go again. So brace yourselves for another episode of The Midnight Skeptic. And here's the playing music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is The Midnight Skeptic. The views of The Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Well, this is the Midnight Skeptic Show number 126. And it'll be broadcast on June 25th, San Francisco Pride Parade Day, Sunday, 9 p.m. on KPCA FM worldwide and locally, 103.3 FM. In my notes here, I said, happy summer solstice, everybody. I was planning on recording this yesterday, but life intervenes sometimes. Oh, it's so good to be woke, so good to be woke, so fun to be woke today. All of the 8 billion people on Earth should be woke and ignore what religions would have us believe. Send all hate mail, death threats, and useful suggestions to themidnightskeptic@gmail.com. I'll deal with them appropriately. Okay. Shout outs. Spotify and Anchor. They're the ones who, transmit this program worldwide. About 3 or 4 in the EU, 1 in the UK, 3 in Canada, a couple in Russia, a couple in Australia and New Zealand, 1 in Colombia, 1 in Puerto Rico. I don't know. So there's, somewhere between 10 and 20 worldwide occasional listeners. Okay, shout outs. Locally, Rob at KPCA down at Petaluma Community Access, Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix Theater, John Crowley at Aquas Cafe, Nariman. I think I've forgotten to give him a shout out for the last couple of shows. I don't know why that is. Art Kuznets, Tim Conrad, ex-Sonora High grad, Dave and Rosita, Kevin and Lori, Tom and Nancy, Rich and Kathy, Dennis and Megan down in Tiburon, Reno and Stockton, Kathy and Chanda, my first cousins, and Chanda's son, Michael. He's up there in Reno, too. San Francisco, Yvonne and Rick, Stan and Kathy, and Susan Miller, who prides herself on being quite a progressive lefty. Okay, they're all in Pacifica. Tim Munnicky and Julian Fairfield, the 3 Project Censored guys or dudes. Mickey Huff, Nolan Higdon, and Andy Lee Roth. Go to their website, projectcensored.org. Subscribe to their newsletter, and a lot of interesting articles in it. And you might want to order the State of the Free Press 2023 while you're on their website. I recommend it highly. Down in LA, Jackie and her daughter Samantha, Arizona, my brother Brandon and Mina, and their daughter Andrea, my niece, who's a nurse down there, in Arkansas, Shannon Reed, Florida. Okay, Amelia Beamer is now on YouTube with Locus, Locus magazine, letting us all know weekly what sort of books have been recently published in the genre of horror, fantasy, and science fiction. And she's right on YouTube telling you all this. Go to it. Yeah. And subscribe to the Locus, I guess, channel. And she's up to 1,000 subscribers now. Okay, but keep it going. All right, and also Nelson and Alice Lydell, Dr. Dave in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, the world's finest pulmonary doctor, Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, and the Sonora Gang, Robert and Colleen, Bob and Sandy, and their two children, Brad and Martha. Okay, and Darrell, Judy, Leonidas, Lynn Quayle, Kathy Francis, John Gleason, and his two daughters, Jennifer and Tiffany, and then all the way down to Mexico City, Rosie Lopez Negrete. Okay, there's the shout outs. All right, good news. And I am going to try every time to start the program with good news. Okay, the Williams Institute, and they're down at UCLA Law School, actually, in collaboration with NORC at the University of Chicago, and that is the National Opinion Research Center that was founded in 1941, says a large majority of Americans oppose denying medical care, employment, and business services to the LGBTQ community based on religious beliefs. Okay, but you'd never know it by the efforts and laws that are being passed in Republican MAGA-head controlled states. But actually, the majority of people in the United States are quite kind, understanding, and fair. They're not like MAGA heads. In other words, the majority of Americans are woke. Okay, more than 84% oppose allowing medical professionals to deny health care to LGBTQ people. 74% oppose allowing employers to deny an LGBTQ person because of religious beliefs. And 71% oppose allowing businesses to refuse service to LGBTQ people because of their religious beliefs. Are you listening, wedding cake bakers, wedding site managers on computers? The report was titled Public Attitudes Toward the Use of Religious Beliefs to Discriminate Against LGBTQ People. Religious conservatives, mainly the Southern Baptist Convention, and I guess Mormons, and I guess other denominations are just filled with hate for people who, in their religious opinion, don't follow the Word of God. Okay, I'm rather anti-religion in general, as I've said many times on this show. All right. Good historical news. The 1978 hateful Briggs Initiative, Proposition 6, and I was living in San Francisco at that time, and I spread a couple of vote no on Prop 6 signs around the neighborhood. Okay, here's what a poster for Proposition 6 said, quote, unquote, protect our children, preserve parents' rights to protect their children from teachers who are immoral and who promote a perverted lifestyle. Vote yes on 6. Okay, those were the kind of signs. Now, the MAGA head freak out that we're suffering through now is nothing new. The Briggs Initiative, I'll repeat again, 1978. So, 88, 98, 08, 18, 45 years ago, we still had hateful Republicans in our state government who would try to get a bill like this passed. Okay, Briggs, and I forget his first name, but he's shucked these mortal coils, and I don't know where he is now. He's probably decomposing in a casket somewhere. Okay. And in this discussion about the Briggs Initiative, former police chief Ed Davis, he was the Los Angeles Police Department chief from 1969 to 1978, the year of the Briggs Initiative. And he was a California state senator from 1980 to 1992. He was a far-right GOP. We had them back in those days. But anyway, here's a quote from former police chief of LA, Ed Davis. Quote, "There's no question that homosexuals pose a threat to children." And he said, there's no question. There's always a question when some right-wing jerk says there's no question. There's always a question about everything. But homosexuals do not pose a threat to children. Catholic priests pose a threat to children. All right. Sip of my grape juice. Okay, this new topic I've entitled Christian Creepy Bad News. Okay, Fox News's Rachel Campos-Duffy, a devout Christian. Boy, does that always raise red flags in my mind. Anyway, she says, climate change is only a problem for people who don't believe in the afterlife. Oh, my God. And this quote goes on, for them, where we leave right now, this place, Earth, is it. So everything's on the line here for them. They think they can perfect this earth. Those of us who have faith don't believe that. And we believe how we act here determines where we go after we die. And so we've got to behave. That is the muddled thinking of fundamentalist Christians. Heaven, hell. Okay. Somehow, religions just have to disappear off the face of the earth. It's not going to happen, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it, but one can only hope. The only group that is growing, and not fast enough for my tastes, are the nuns, not Catholic nuns, Nones. And that means atheists, agnostics, people who in surveys answer that they're not particularly members of any particular church, or they just say religion doesn't figure into my life. All of those groups are lumped into the category of nuns, okay? And that group is growing, especially in the younger generations. Thank God our kids are wising up that religion has nothing for them except hate and fear and guilt, all of the negative emotions. If you want to be happy and helpful to other people, you don't need religion for that. Okay, I'm off my notes. Okay, Rachel Campos Duffy was raised a strict Catholic and is a far-right radical Republican. She stated that the U.S. provoked Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and she blamed Jill Biden and Joe Biden's quote-unquote mental state for letting the Taliban take over Afghanistan. I'm sure that she wants Jill Biden to apologize for that. She's a national spokesman for Libre, Libre initiative, which is a far-right free market capitalism organization aimed at Hispanics. Okay? I'll have more to say on the Libre movement on an upcoming show. Okay. Bad educational news. You probably know where I'm going with this, to DeFascist land in Florida. Ron DeFascist is now coming after the College Board's AP psychology class via the Florida Department of Education, because it has the course, it has a unit that covers gender and sexual orientation. Clearly a violation of Florida law, in which you don't say gay. Okay, the College Board has finally learned its lesson. They say that once you give in to a bully or a dictator, Ron DeSantis, they just keep coming for more and more. Okay, anyway, they gave in on DeFascist's demands that the AP African American Studies course be eliminated. Well, they backed down. Well, they're learning their lesson that bullies and far-right extremists like Ron DeSantis, just keep coming back for more. It's like the Republican MAGA head party nowadays. If you try to be quote unquote fair in governance alongside them, they won't be satisfied until they get every single one of their fascist, anti-LGBT programs in effect and passed as law. Okay. Bullies are never satisfied. Okay. Good news. Voters in Switzerland demonstrated that progressive measures can be approved via direct democracy. Swiss voters on Sunday, the 18th of June, approved a global minimum tax on corporations, and they also passed a law mandating carbon neutrality in Switzerland by mid-century. God, my voice is drying out real quick. More grape juice. Okay. Multinational corporations with more than $750 million in profits will have a minimum of 15% tax. This brings the Swiss in alignment with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD bloc of countries. The Swiss will also now offer incentives for people transitioning to climate-friendly energy sources. Of course, fossil fuel lobbyists fought against this law. Okay, more on fossil fuel obstruction a little bit later in this show. Bad female news. The Young Women's Leadership Summit, an annual event thrown by Turning Point USA, a sort of MAGA youth group. Alex Clark was the MC at the event held at the Gaylord Texan Hotel, which is just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it was on Friday night, June 9th. She is a podcaster of Poplitics. Okay, I'll spell that for you. Capital Poplitics. And the spillover. I guess she's got 2 podcasts. And she appears on Fox News frequently. This Young Women's Leadership Summit, was a rally for older teens and 20-somethings women who are anti-feminist and anti-ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. Quote, okay, now this is a quote from Alex Clark. The 70s fundamentally changed the narrative surrounding women, what our role should be, what our lives should look like, Clark said. All these years later, I'm not sure that was a very good advice. Are you? I guess she's standing on the stage giving a speech to this audience of young women. In the 70s, women were given all sorts of lies. They just told us, and again, who is they? They right wingers never come right out and say who they is, but they is the most evil entity on this planet. If you were to listen to right-wing GOP MAGA heads long enough. Okay, I'm off my notes. I'm continuing with this quote. I'm not sure this was very good advice. Are you? Okay. In the 70s, women were given all sorts of lies. They just told us, well, you can be a man, which is untrue. And I guess we've kind of accomplished that. Another untruth from Alex Clark. But are we happier? What I'm here to tell you is, if you were to just go back to the biblical roots in what God had designed for woman to do, we will be happier, she told the audience. Okay, all of these fundamentalist Christians who rely on the Word of God, if they want to live that way in a 50s housewife, raising the kids, servicing your husband type of way, if you really want that, women, do it. Nobody's stopping you. But don't keep kvetching and complaining about the women who want more for their lives than that kind of life. That's the problem with GOP MAGA head Republicans. They insist that everybody would be happier if you just read the books that we think you should read. Live your lives the way that we think you should live your lives, and dress the way we think you should dress. Raise your kids the way we think you should raise your kids. That's a dictatorship. They don't see it that way, though, but I, the Midnight Skeptic, see it that way. Okay? And, okay. My little notes down here said riff. Well, that's what I'm doing now. Just talking off the top of my head about that topic. Okay. Whew. A federal judge. Okay, this is good news. A federal judge in Arkansas has struck down Arkansas's ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth. Judge James M. Moody said the ban violated the U.S. Constitution. Okay, and this is a quote from Judge Moody. Rather than protecting, in quote marks, children or safeguarding medical ethics, the evidence shows that the prohibited medical care improves the mental health and well-being of patients. Okay, unquote. He is right on the money. He is backed up by evidence, whereas GOP MAGA head Republicans who are trying to ban gender-affirming health care in Arkansas are just pandering to their base, pandering to the Southern Baptist Convention parishioners. They're just jerks and evil. And I don't toss around the big E word lightly. They are just caught up in right-wing politics. At the next election, whatever state you live in, if it's controlled by Republicans, we don't have to worry about that here in California, but just vote all Republicans out of office. Mostly it's going to be the 2024 election coming up. Okay, I'm off my notes again. Again, for ignorant GOP MAGAs, puberty blockers are reversible. Facts don't matter to them. Okay. When a child stops taking puberty blockers, puberty resumes. And if after puberty blockers they start taking testosterone supplements, if they are transitioning to a male from female, or estrogen shots, if they're transitioning from a little boy with gender dysphoria to a female, estrogen. Either way, puberty, the appropriate kind of puberty, will resume. Okay? And it's not 100% proven yet. There's still studies that have to be done. But would you rather trust the medical establishment or Republicans? Okay. You can tell by my tone of voice what my answer is. Okay. New topic. Okay, good environmental news. Court arguments in Held, H-E-L-D, versus Montana wrapped up in Montana. Wrapped up on Tuesday, a couple of days ago. And it should be decided tomorrow, Friday. Okay, the 23rd. Boy, do I need another sip of grape juice. Okay. Okay, that's Montana. There were 16 kids that decided to hold the Montana legislature up to going along with the state's constitution. Okay? And they're being represented by our Children's Trust, an environmental legal organization. Okay, more on that later. Okay, another kid-run court case, Juliana versus the United States. And the judge that heard that case a while back, here's a quote from her. Oh, what's her name? U.S. District Judge Ann Aiken, capital A-I-K-E-N. Quote, exercising my reasoned judgment, I have no doubt that the right to a climate system capable of sustaining human life is fundamental to a free and ordered society. Okay, that was a quote from U.S. District Judge Ann Aiken. And that was on March 15th of this year, 2023. Judge Aiken denied 18 Republican attorneys general's request to intervene as defendants in Juliana versus the United States. And on June 1st, Judge Aiken granted the youth plaintiffs' motion to amend their case, ruling that they can proceed to trial. Both cases are being represented by our Children's Trust attorneys. 21 youths in Juliana, 16 youths in upheld. I will keep my thousands and thousands of watchers on YouTube and listeners worldwide and locally. I'll keep you updated on the progress of these two cases. Local fossil fuel bad news. The quote unquote cap on oil refineries' profits bill in California, signed into law by Governor Newsom, was fought tooth and nail by oil companies that set up phony concerned taxpayers and small business owner groups to lobby against the bill. And this lawyer, I'm going to name him, Stephen Lucas, capital Lucas. He's a San Rafael, California attorney. They're just, 20 miles down Highway 101 is where San Rafael is. He set himself up as the CFO, the chief financial officer of these phony groups that were funded by oil companies and the Western States Petroleum Association to the tune of $9.4 million. And that's just in the first quarter of 2023, January, February, March. Chevron is the big bucks behind these phony pressure groups. All right. I do not advocate boycotting any companies, but Chevron is the big bad wolf in this situation, trying to have us burn as much fossil fuels as possible. Okay, bad historical news. The American Catholic Church were major slave owners in colonial America, especially in the state of Maryland, up until the Civil War. Catholic priests who relied on slavery after the Revolutionary War built the first Catholic college in the United States in 1789. It was built and run by the Jesuit order, and in April of 2017, the Jesuits formally apologized to the black community for their part, the Catholic Church's part, in slavery. Did I mention the name of the college? It was Georgetown. Sandra Green Thomas, president of the GU 272. Okay, what does GU stand for? Georgetown University. And what significance is 272? That was the number of slaves sold. They were working for the Catholic Church in slavery, and there was some financial hardship that came to Georgetown University. And in 1838, to save Georgetown from financial ruin, the Jesuits sold more than 272 slaves from their Maryland plantations. Okay, the Catholic Church, and I guess some individual priests, owned plantations in Maryland, maybe some in Virginia, I don't know. But similar to the ones that were down in the deep South. Okay? Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina. Okay. And hence the name of this group, the GU 272 Descendants Association. You can go online and Google GU 272 Descendants, and there's a list of last names that were quite common amongst the slaves owned by the Catholic Church that were sold off in this group of 272. And you've got to know that Catholic priests, local priests, had their way with little African American girls and some boys to satisfy their, phony pledges of chastity and purity. Okay. New topic. Bad news. Okay. The Southern Baptist Convention being held in New Orleans during Pride Month. I think it's over now, but it was last week. I don't have the dates on it. Has been taken control of by ultra-conservatives urging a crackdown on women, arguing that, can't read my handwriting again, purging them from leadership positions in the church. They worry about what they see as swiftly changing norms around gender and sexuality in America. And they fear ascendant secular values that are restructuring family life, children's education, and personal identity. In other words, the LGBTQ community. Tim Lee, L-E-E, a delegate and a Marine, and I don't know whether he's active duty now or retired Marine. I'm not sure of that. But the article I got this from mentioned he's a Marine. Well, once a Marine, always a Marine. I've been told that on a number of occasions by friends that I've had that were Marines. Some good, some not so good. Okay. Anyway, Tim Lee, a delegate and Marine, declared that America needs, quote unquote, real men, and railed against, quote unquote, all this trans stuff. And he got a lot of applause for saying that. And another quote, they are always trying to do bad things. All right. They are trying to make sissies out of our boys. And they are trying to make boys out of our girls. The Southern Baptist Convention has spent the last several years grappling with the sprawling revelations of sexual abuse against women and children. So it's not just Catholic priests. It's these Southern Baptist, ministers or pastors or whatever they call themselves. Okay, but here's kind of irony. There were, on a number of days during the convention, all male panel discussions that were held on the issue of women's leadership. I'll give my listeners time to chuckle over that bit of irony. Membership, this is some good news. Membership in the Southern Baptist Convention has been declining, but still, it's the largest Protestant denomination, okay? And mainly, it's the younger generation that are leaving the Southern Baptist Convention in droves. Good for them. Good for millennials. Good for Generation X. I'm having a brain freeze on what the current generation is called. Millennials, I guess. Okay, we're going to have to come up with another catchphrase for the kids that are just like right now graduating from high school and getting ready to go on to college. Okay. New topic, and I'm going to sip some grape juice. I promise you I'm going to end the show with good news. Bad GOP news. The party that investigates everything it can as retribution against Democrats now is targeting research. Truth must hurt them. Their targets, the GOP-controlled Judiciary Committee is what I'm talking about, are Stanford, Clemson, NYU, the University of Washington, and the nonpartisan Atlantic Council. These organizations, and that's only a partial list, are studying and researching disinformation, the lifeblood of GOP MAGA heads. Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, who I wish that he would just lapse into a 50-year coma, claims that conservatives are being censored and discriminated against. Jim Jordan, have you heard of book banning and don't say gay? And Stephen, the neo-Nazi Miller from the Orange Sociopathic Bloat Bag Administration, and president of an organization called America First Legal, which is a right-wing group of lawyers who, are a holdover, well, not a holdover, but a new iteration of the America Firsters, the neo-Nazi group from pre-World War II, has termed research groups the censorship industrial complex. That's Stephen Miller's turn of phrase. The committee focused on the Election Integrity Partnership formed before the 2020 election by Stanford and Washington University. Now, I'm not clear whether that's Washington University in St. Louis or the University of Washington, the state. I'm not sure about that. Okay, they formed this election integrity partnership to identify attempts at voter suppression, efforts to confuse voters, or efforts to delegitimize election results. all of which are GOP tricks to keep themselves in power. That's really all they want. Okay, two more things. Okay, and both good news. A federal judge. Okay, now, I made kind of a mistake. I had forgotten that I had mentioned this previously on this segment in my notes. Okay, but I'll say it anyway. It's worth repeating. A federal judge on Tuesday, June 20th, struck down Arkansas's first in the nation ban on gender affirming care for children as unconstitutional because it violated the equal protection rights of transgender youth and their families. Thus, this ending good news is so good that it bears repeating. Suck it, Governor Huckabee. Your GOP MAGA-head Republicans are so worried about parental rights. What about the parents of transgender kids? Don't they have rights? Well, of course not, according to GOP MAGA-head Republicans. Okay, I'm going to end this show with real good news. Good historical news. The first National Spelling Bee occurred on June 29th, 1908. And it was won by Marie Bolden, capital Bolden, a 14-year-old black girl. She was the only black participant. My microphone. Okay. She was the only black participant. She represented the city of Cleveland public schools. Her victory was met with rancor among politicians and educators, although the kids who were defeated themselves, I guess, sucked it up and went over and shook her hand. This was a very racist time in our country's history. Although GOP MAGA heads, in their efforts to ban CRT, wouldn't have anybody know this. Okay, that's the end of my notes, but I always have backups. Okay, and this is good news. This is from like yesterday, the New York Times, and I haven't been able to get it into my notes yet, but very good news. The headline is, Florida's book ban draws a lawsuit. Boy, it's about time. Students and authors, the people who write the books that have been banned, challenge legislation that removed a title from school libraries. Okay, now, a group of students and the authors of children's books about a penguin family with two fathers sued a Florida school district and the state's Board of Education on Tuesday. All right, well, this is the 20th. Okay, June 20th. Saying that restricting access to the book in school libraries was unconstitutional. Of course it is. The suit argues that the book was targeted on ideological grounds. Everything the GOP MAGA heads target is on ideological grounds. Okay, this ideological grounds as a result of new legislation that has led to a spike in book removals. The state law, known by its opponents as Don't Say Gay, bars instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation. In an attempt to follow the statute, the school district for Lake County restricted access to 40 children's book titles that deal with LGBTQ issues. Now, this pair of male penguins who were raising an egg and it hatched, and they cared for the hatchling, actually happened in the Bronx Zoo. And so this is a children's book about it. But GOP MAGA heads, you can't have two males raising a little penguin baby. That is one of the reasons why we should all vote out all Republicans. Okay, here's my play out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to pet your cat. You will be stress-free. Take my word for it. Okay, I will see you, I guess, on, July 2nd for the next broadcast of this. This YouTube will be on as soon as I can download it. All right? Goodbye, everybody, for now.